One of my group project members tried to plagiarize, so I got him expelled, not knowing that he would spend almost a decade planning his revenge. In my first year of college, everyone in my course was pretty much a deadbeat, but one stood out more than the rest. Someone I like to call Deadbeat Daniel. He was literally the definition of useless. On the first day, Deadbeat Daniel came in and started lighting up a cigarette in the middle of the lecture, and when the teacher started tweaking out, he put out the cigarette on the wall and claimed it was fine in his old school, and because it was a ghetto community school, he was allowed to stay enrolled. And it's not like I was a try-hard or anything, but I did somewhat care about my grades. So when Deadbeat Daniel would scroll on his phone in every lecture with the volume on, it ticked me off a lot. And just when I finally trained myself to ignore his existence, we were forced to work on a group project together. I'll spare you the details, but everyone, including me, handed in our work just minutes before the deadline, with the exception of course, Deadbeat Daniel. He handed his part in 2 full days after the deadline, which is literally insane considering that we each only had 350 words to write. Something in me told me to read his work, and I'm so glad I did, because I immediately recognized it from a Wikipedia page that I had read, copied word for word, no changes. I pinched the bridge of my nose and took a deep breath before calling Deadbeat Daniel. I knew asking him to rewrite it would be too much, so I simply asked if he could at least change the wording on every 3rd sentence. Bro, do it yourself, bro. I already played my part and submitted. Don't call me again. I thought about every cigarette he put out on my book bag, every coffee he spilled onto my desk, every time I nearly gagged from how awful he smelled. My body was immediately filled with hatred. I texted Deadbeat Daniel and told him if he didn't step up, I would tell the professor how much of a crappy group member he was. And instead of actually doing it, or even just texting some sort of apology, Deadbeat Daniel sent me a threat. He said he would tell the professor that I was the one who didn't do anything. I stared at his message for a few minutes, and my thumbs danced over the screen debating what to say. In the end, I ignored him and went to the professor. I told him everything, hoping for some kind of punishment, but he just nodded and told me to get out because he wanted to go home early. I was so taken aback that I didn't even argue. I just left. When the results came out, Deadbeat Daniel got an A and I got a C. Go figure. After that, I never heard about it again, until a week later that is, because that's when the professor finally called me into his office. I felt a rush of excitement as we both sat down. He told me he had found out about my plagiarism. He said my essays were being put under academic review. My heart dropped. I asked him what he was talking about, and he said he had found out about my true motivations to frame Deadbeat Daniel. But now, my facade is over. I buried my face in my hands. I had trouble keeping myself from bursting into tears. That's when my professor let out a deep belly, guttural laugh. I'm just busting your chops, boy. Daniel is expelled, not you. You should have seen your face. I stared at him blankly, feeling more relieved than celebratory. I guess I was just happy it was finally over. Without Deadbeat Daniel, lectures were smooth sailing. My grades went up by 300%, and life was great. I managed to transfer into a university and graduated with a 3.9 GPA. I had literally become the definition of turning over a new leaf. I even lost my V card and got a girlfriend, all in the same year. But then, as I walked into my internship orientation, with a big smile on my face, I wanted to commit suicide, just like in 8th grade. Because who did I see? None other than my Deadbeat Daniel, standing there with a smile that inflated even more as soon as he saw me. He knew what I had done, and he was ready to bring his worst. I noticed he was still wearing the same battered watch with the cracked face that he'd had in college, but his clothes looked newer and more expensive, though still worn with the same careless attitude. Melissa, the HR manager, started calling everyone to take seats for the presentation. I found the furthest possible chair from Daniel and tried to focus on what she was saying, but my mind was racing. How did he even get this internship? The company was pretty selective. I had to go through 3 rounds of interviews and submit a portfolio of my work, not to mention the multiple reference checks they conducted. As the orientation proceeded, I kept catching Daniel glancing my way, that smirk never leaving his face. I checked my phone during our first break and saw a new message from an unknown number. Long time no see, buddy. Hope you're ready for round 2. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to immediately go to HR and explain the history between us, but another part knew that would make me look like a problem employee on day 1. I shoved my phone back in my pocket as Melissa called us back from break. All right, interns, now we'll be assigning you to your department mentors, she said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the psychological warfare happening right under her nose. I tried to focus on her words, but my mind kept drifting back to Daniel. How the hell did he even get this position? The company was one of the top marketing firms in the city. They had standards, for Christ's sake. When they called my name, I was assigned to the digital marketing team under some guy named Rick. Then they called Daniel's name. My breath caught in my throat. Daniel, you'll be with the social media team under Jennifer. Thank God. At least we'd be in different departments. Small victories, right? After orientation wrapped up, I made a beeline for the elevator. I was almost there when I felt a hand clap my shoulder. Hey man, crazy running into you here. Daniel's voice was just as irritating as I remembered. Small world, huh? I turned around slowly. What do you want, Daniel? He put his hands up defensively. Whoa, just being friendly. We're colleagues now. Water under the bridge and all that. I stared at him skeptically. You just texted me, hope you're ready for round 2, and now you want to pretend everything's cool? He laughed. Just messing with you, bro. No hard feelings about that whole college thing, right? The elevator doors opened, and I stepped in without answering. As they started to close, Daniel stuck his hand between them, forcing them back open. He got in beside me. Look, he said, his voice dropping the fake friendliness. I just want you to know that I earned this internship. Fair and square. I couldn't help myself. I snorted. Something funny? His eyes narrowed. Just wondering if Wikipedia helped with your application too, I muttered. The elevator reached the lobby, and I stepped out quickly. Daniel followed. You know what? I was gonna let bygones be bygones. icons, but fuck that now, he hissed as we walked through the lobby. You think you're so much better than me? I stopped and turned to face him. I don't think about you at all, Daniel, and I'd appreciate if you returned the favor. That was a lie. I'd thought about him plenty in the last 2 minutes. Yeah, well, we'll see who's the superstar intern by the end of this program, he said, that stupid smirk returning to his face. Is everything a competition to you? I asked, exasperated. Only when I'm winning, he replied, then turned and headed toward the parking lot. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. This was supposed to be my fresh start, my chance to build connections, and maybe land a full-time position. And now deadbeat Daniel was threatening to ruin it all over again. I called my girlfriend, Sarah, as soon as I got to my car. We'd been dating for about 8 months after meeting in that statistics class at the university. She was smart, level-headed, and exactly who I needed to talk to right now. He's probably just trying to get in your head, she said after I explained the situation. Don't let him. Easier said than done, I replied, starting my car. You don't know this guy. He's like a cockroach, impossible to get rid of and pops up when you least expect it. Well, maybe it's time you stopped running from the cockroach and just stepped on it, Sarah suggested. I laughed. That's dark. I'm just saying, don't let him control the narrative this time. She was right, of course. I needed to take charge of the situation before Daniel had a chance to screw me over again. The next day, I arrived early for my first real day of work. I met Rick, my mentor, a laid-back guy in his 30s with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and an impressive collection of Star Wars figurines on his desk. He walked me through the basics of the job and assigned me my first project, creating a social media strategy for a small local business. I was deep into research when I heard a familiar laugh from across the office. I looked up to see Daniel chatting with a group of employees like they were old friends. One of them was Jennifer, his mentor. She seemed completely charmed by whatever bullshit he was spinning. Throughout the next week, I kept my head down and focused on my work. Rick seemed impressed with my progress, and I was starting to feel like maybe this situation with Daniel would work itself out. We were in different departments, after all. I barely saw him except for the occasional run-in by the coffee machine or in the elevator. Then came the company-wide email about the intern project competition. To foster creativity and team building, all interns will be paired up to compete in developing marketing strategies for our newest client, Green Life Organics. The winning team will receive a bonus and special recognition from upper management. My stomach dropped as I scrolled down to see the team assignments. There, at the top of the list, Team 1, Daniel Martinez, and my name. I nearly threw my computer across the room. This had to be a joke. I immediately marched over to HR and asked to speak with Melissa. I'm sorry, but I can't work with Daniel, I told her once we were in her office. We have a complicated history. Melissa looked at me sympathetically but shook her head. The teams were randomly assigned. It wouldn't be fair to the other interns if we made changes now. But plus, she continued, learning to work with difficult personalities is part of professional development. Think of it as a growth opportunity. A growth opportunity, right? More like an opportunity for Daniel to sabotage my career before it even started. I trudged back to my desk, feeling defeated. Rick noticed my mood and asked what was wrong. Just found out who my partner is for the intern competition, I muttered. Rick glanced at the email. Oh, Daniel? He seems like a nice guy, always bringing donuts for the social media team. Great. Daniel was already working his charm on the entire office. I was starting to feel like I was back in community college all over again. That afternoon, I got an email from Daniel. Let's meet in conference room B after work to discuss our project. Don't be late. Bringing pizza. At least there would be food. I arrived at the conference room at 5:30. Daniel was already there, 2 pizza boxes open on the table. He was wearing a button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking annoyingly professional. There he is, he said as I walked in. Grab a slice. I cautiously took a piece of pizza and sat down across from him. Look, he started. I know we've had our differences, but this project is important to me. I want to win. Why? So you can rub it in my face? He rolled his eyes. Not everything is about you, man. I want to impress Jennifer. I think she might put in a good word with the hiring manager if we do well. I took a bite of pizza, considering this. So, what's your angle here? We work together, win the competition, and then you go back to making my life miserable? How about we just focus on winning first? He suggested. Truce until the competition is over? I wasn't sure if I trusted him, but I didn't have much choice. Fine, truce. We spent the next hour brainstorming ideas for Green Life Organics. To my surprise, Daniel actually had some decent insights. He might have been a deadbeat in college, but he seemed to have a natural instinct for what would appeal to consumers. As we were wrapping up, he casually asked, so, you dating anyone? The question caught me off guard. Yeah, her name's Sarah. We met at university. He nodded. Cool. You should bring her to the company party next week. There's a party? Yeah, it's not official or anything. Just some of us getting together at the rooftop bar downtown. Jennifer organized it. I was suspicious of his sudden friendliness, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to network with other employees. Maybe we will. The week progressed, and Daniel and I fell into an uneasy rhythm of cooperation. We met every evening to work on our project, and I had to admit, we were coming up with some solid ideas. Green Life Organics was looking for a way to appeal to younger consumers without alienating their established customer base. Daniel suggested a dual campaign, traditional marketing for their existing customers and a more edgy social media approach for the younger demographic. I was starting to think that maybe he had changed since college. Maybe getting expelled had been a wake-up call for him. Then I found the file. I was looking through our shared project folder when I noticed a document titled Backup Plan. Curious, I opened it. It was a complete marketing strategy, similar to what we were working on, but with some key differences, and it only had Daniel's name on it. The bastard was preparing a solo project as a backup, in case ours failed, or in case he decided to screw me over and submit it as his own. I confronted him about it the next day. What the hell is this? I demanded, showing him the file on my laptop. He didn't even look embarrassed. Just something I was working on as a plan B. No big deal. No big deal? It looks like you're planning to ditch our project and submit this instead. He shrugged. Always good to have options. friends. That's not how partnerships work, Daniel. We're supposed to be a team. Look, I didn't think you'd find that folder. It's just a precaution. I closed my laptop, fuming. Are you seriously pulling the same shit as in college? I thought you said you changed. I never said I changed, he replied, looking annoyed. I said I wanted to win. There's a difference. I gathered my things and stood up. I'm not doing this again. Either we work together for real, or I tell Melissa what you're up to. He laughed. Go ahead. Who do you think they'll believe? The guy who brings donuts and makes everyone laugh, or the paranoid dude who's obviously jealous of his more popular colleague? It was community college all over again. Daniel had spent the last week charming everyone in the office while I had been heads down in my work. He'd even befriended Rick, dropping by our department to borrow supplies just so he could chat with my mentor. I left the conference room feeling defeated. I needed a new plan. The company party was that Friday night. Sarah agreed to come with me, though she wasn't thrilled about it after I told her Daniel would be there. I want to see this cockroach for myself, she said, as we got ready in my apartment. The rooftop bar was packed when we arrived. Most of the interns and junior staff were already there, along with a few of the mentors, including Jennifer and, surprisingly, Rick. Daniel spotted us immediately and made his way over. He was wearing a fitted blazer over a t-shirt, looking effortlessly cool. I hated him even more for it. Hey man, and you must be Sarah, he said, extending his hand to my girlfriend. I've heard so much about you. Sarah shook his hand, her face neutral. Funny, I've heard a lot about you too. Daniel laughed, seemingly unfazed by her cold tone. All good things, I hope. Not even close, she replied with a sweet smile. I suppressed a grin. This was why I loved her. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. Well, drinks are on me tonight. What can I get you both? Just a beer for me, I said. Wine, please. White, Sarah added. Daniel nodded and made his way to the bar. As soon as he was out of earshot, Sarah turned to me. Okay, I get it now. He's got that fake charm thing going on. Very punchable face. I laughed. Told you. So what's your plan? She asked. Still working on that. For now, I'm just trying to get through this project without him screwing me over. Daniel returned with our drinks and spent the next 20 minutes trying to impress Sarah with stories about his college adventures, conveniently leaving out the part where he got expelled. Sarah played along, asking seemingly innocent questions that subtly highlighted the inconsistencies in his stories. So after you graduated, did you go straight into marketing? She asked sweetly. Daniel hesitated. Not exactly. I took some time off, did some traveling. Oh, with what money? I thought you said your family wasn't well off. I watched as Daniel scrambled to patch the holes in his fabricated life story. Sarah was systematically dismantling his fake persona, and it was glorious to watch. Eventually, Jennifer called Daniel over to meet someone, and he excused himself. You're incredible, I told Sarah once he was gone. She shrugged. He's not very good at lying. Too many details that don't add up. As the night progressed, I noticed Daniel was getting friendlier with the higher-ups, including some people from departments I didn't even know existed at the company. He was working the room like a pro, while I mostly stuck with Sarah, Rick, and a few other interns. At one point, I went to get more drinks and overheard Daniel talking to Jennifer and a guy I recognized as one of the senior managers. Really carrying the team, Daniel was saying. Between us, I'm doing most of the work on our project. My partner's nice and all, but he trailed off with a meaningful look. My blood boiled, that lying sack of shit. I was about to interrupt and set the record straight when Sarah appeared at my side. Everything okay? She asked, noticing my expression. I nodded toward Daniel. He's telling them he's carrying our project. Sarah considered this for a moment. You know what? Let him. What? Why? Because liars always trip themselves up eventually, she said. If he's taking all the credit now, he'll have to deliver later. And from what you've told me, delivering isn't exactly his strong suit. She had a point. Daniel was setting expectations he couldn't possibly meet on his own. The next week, our project deadline was approaching fast. Daniel and I were scheduled to present our marketing strategy to a panel of managers on Friday. Despite everything, we'd actually put together a solid presentation. Daniel had even incorporated some of my research into his parts, which surprised me. On Thursday afternoon, I was putting the finishing touches on our slide deck when Rick stopped by my desk. How's the project coming along? He asked. Pretty good, actually. We present tomorrow. He nodded. Jennifer says Daniel's been working his ass off on it. Says he's got some innovative approaches to the youth demographic. I felt a twinge of annoyance but kept my expression neutral. Yeah, we've both been putting in a lot of hours. Rick looked at me for a moment, then lowered his voice. Listen, I know it's none of my business, but there are some rumors going around about you and Daniel not getting along. Great. So Daniel had been spreading gossip too. We have a complicated history, I admitted, but we're making it work for the project. Rick nodded. Well, just so you know, people are watching this presentation pretty closely. The client might even be there. That was news to me. The actual client? Green Life Organics? Yep, apparently they're considering hiring from the intern pool for their in-house marketing team. It's a great opportunity. After Rick left, I immediately called Daniel. Did you know the client is going to be at our presentation tomorrow? I demanded when he answered. Yeah, Jennifer mentioned it this morning. Cool, right? And you didn't think to tell me? He sighed. I'm telling you now. What's the big deal? The big deal is that there might be jobs on the line here, Daniel. Actual jobs. Exactly. All the more reason for us to nail this presentation. I was about to argue further when he cut me off. Look, I've got to go. Jennifer asked me to help with something. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Don't stress so much. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, feeling that familiar sense of dread. Daniel obviously saw this as his big chance, and I didn't trust him not to throw me under the bus if it meant securing a job for himself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went over our presentation again and again, looking for any weaknesses Daniel might exploit. By morning, I was a mess of anxiety and caffeine. I arrived at the office an hour early, planning to review everything one last time. To my surprise, Daniel was already there, looking surprisingly professional in a proper suit and tie. Morning, he said when I walked in. Ready for the big show? I nodded, still wary. As ready as I'll ever be. Good, because I made some changes to the presentation last night. My heart sank. What kind of changes? He pulled up the updated updated slide deck on his laptop. Nothing major, just reordered some slides and added a few points about sustainability. I looked through the new deck, half expecting to find my name removed or my research distorted, but everything seemed fine. Better than fine, actually. The changes he'd made were good. This looks great, I admitted reluctantly. He smiled, but not his usual smirk. This looked almost genuine, thanks. I figured the client would want more emphasis on the eco-friendly angle, given their brand. We spent the next hour rehearsing our parts. Daniel had taken the first half of the presentation, leaving me with the second half including the conclusion. It was a fair split, and he seemed well prepared. As the meeting time approached, people started filling the conference room. Rick and Jennifer were there, along with several managers I recognized from the party. And in the front row, a woman in a green blazer who I assumed must be from Green Life Organics. Daniel nudged me. That's Karen Hughes, the marketing director at Green Life. Jennifer introduced us at the party last week. Of course, he'd already met her. Daniel was nothing, if not opportunistic. The presentation started, and Daniel kicked it off with confidence. He was charming, articulate, and completely in control of the room. I had to admit, he was good at this part of the job. Then it was my turn. I started strong, walking through our research and strategies. But as I was explaining our budget allocation, I noticed Daniel checking his phone under the table. Then he started typing something. I tried to stay focused, but it was distracting. What was so important that he needed to text during our presentation? I was about halfway through my section when the conference room door opened. A man in a suit walked in and handed a note to one of the managers, who read it and then whispered something to the others. They all looked at their phones. I continued presenting, but I could feel the energy in the room shifting. People were distracted now, checking their devices and whispering to each other. Is everything okay? I finally asked, pausing my presentation. The manager who'd received the note looked up. I'm sorry, but we need to cut this short. There's been a situation that requires our attention. My heart sank. After all our preparation, we weren't even going to finish? What kind of situation? Daniel asked, sounding as disappointed as I felt. The manager hesitated. It appears someone has leaked confidential information about Green Life Organics on social media. Their stock is taking a hit. All eyes turned to Karen from Green Life, who was frantically typing on her phone. She looked up, her face pale. The information in the leak, it's from the confidential supplementary files we provided for your team to work on this project. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then everyone started talking at once. Who had access to those files? Only the interns working on this project, right? Has anyone checked the shared drive logs? I looked at Daniel, who seemed just as confused as everyone else. But then I noticed something. He'd put his phone away very quickly when the news broke. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Karen from Green Life left immediately, saying she needed to call her PR team. The managers huddled together, discussing how to handle the situation. Rick motioned for me to follow him out of the conference room. What the hell happened in there? I asked once we were in the hallway. Rick looked grim. Someone leaked proprietary information about Green Life's new product line. It's all over Twitter now. But who would do that? And why? He shook his head. I don't know, but they're checking the server logs now to see who accessed those files recently. My mind was racing. The only people with access to those files were the interns working on Green Life projects and our mentors. I had accessed them, of course, but so had Daniel. Then it hit me. The texting during my presentation, the timing of the leak. It wasn't a coincidence. I found Daniel in the break room, calmly making a cup of coffee as if nothing had happened. Did you do it? I demanded, keeping my voice low. He looked at me innocently. Do what? Leak the Green Life information during our presentation. Was that you? He sipped his coffee. Why would I sabotage my own presentation? I don't know, Daniel. Why did you submit plagiarized work in college? Why did you make a backup plan for our project? You tell me. Before he could answer, Jennifer appeared in the doorway. It wants to see both of you. Now. We followed her to a small office where a tech guy was sitting at a computer. One of the senior managers was there too, looking furious. We checked the logs, the tech guy said without preamble. The files were accessed yesterday afternoon from one of the intern computers. My stomach dropped. I had accessed those files yesterday while finalizing our presentation. Can you tell which computer? The manager asked. The tech guy nodded. Workstation 14B. I tried to remember which computer I used. Was it 14B? I couldn't recall the station number. That's your workstation, Jennifer said, looking at Daniel. All eyes turned to him. He laughed nervously. I mean, yeah, I accessed the files for our presentation. We both did. The files were sent to an external email address, the tech guy continued. A Gmail account. Daniel's face paled slightly. I might have sent them to my personal email so I could work from home. Is that against the rules? The manager's expression darkened. The confidentiality agreement you signed on your first day explicitly forbids removing company documents from our secure network. Daniel looked genuinely worried now. I didn't know that included working from home. I was just trying to be thorough with our presentation. The timing of the leak coincides exactly with when you were on your phone during the presentation, I pointed out. Daniel shot me a betrayed look. You're seriously accusing me right now? I wasn't leaking anything. I was texting my mom. Show us your phone then, Jennifer suggested. Daniel hesitated. I don't have to do that. It's private. The manager stood up. Daniel, we need to continue this conversation in HR. Jennifer, please escort him. As they left, the tech guy turned to his computer again. There's something else. The leaked information wasn't in the general briefing packet. It was in a supplementary file that only one of the interns downloaded. Which one? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. User Dia Martinez downloaded it yesterday at 4:37 p.m. I remembered that time clearly. Daniel had said he needed to leave early for a doctor's appointment. I'd stayed to finish our slides while he supposedly went to the doctor. Instead, he downloaded confidential information and then leaked it during our presentation. But why? What did he gain from tanking our presentation and potentially getting himself fired? As everyone focused on processing what had just happened, Rick pulled me aside into an empty meeting room. Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but this is serious. The Green Life people are furious, he said, running his hand through his hair. I nodded, still trying to piece everything together. I honestly don't understand why he'd do this. this? It makes no sense. Rick shook his head. Well, I've got your back, but you need to stay far away from this mess. HR is going to be interviewing everyone involved. Sure enough, I spent the next hour in a tiny office with Melissa from HR and some guy from legal, answering questions about my access to the files and my history with Daniel. I told them everything, from our community college days to finding his backup plan for our project. So you're saying there's a pattern of sabotage? Melissa asked, typing notes into her laptop. More like a pattern of him doing whatever benefits him in the moment, regardless of who gets hurt, I replied. The legal guy looked skeptical, but leaking this information doesn't seem to benefit him at all. It's career suicide. He was right. That was the part I couldn't figure out. Daniel was opportunistic, not stupid. Surely he knew leaking confidential client information would get him fired, maybe even sued. When I finally left the HR office, the entire floor was buzzing with whispers. I checked my phone to find 3 missed calls from Sarah and a text. WTF is happening? News about Green Life leak is everywhere. I called her back immediately and filled her in on the chaos. That's insane, she said when I finished. But are you sure Daniel did it? It sounds like something bigger might be going on. The evidence points to him, I said, though her skepticism was making me second-guess myself. But you're right. It doesn't make sense for him to torpedo his own career like this. I was heading back to my desk when I overheard Jennifer talking to another mentor near the break room. Already had another job lined up at Apex Digital. Apparently they've been trying to get Green Life's new product specs for months. I froze. Apex Digital was Green Life's biggest competitor. You think he was working for them the whole time? The other mentor asked. Jennifer shrugged. Who knows? But IT found emails from an Apex recruiter in his company account dating back to his first week here. Holy shit. Daniel hadn't just been sabotaging our presentation, he'd been corporate spying. That's why he'd been so eager to work on the Green Life project. That's why he'd gone out of his way to charm Jennifer and get close to Karen from Green Life at the party. He was being paid substantially by Apex to get insider information. I should have felt vindicated. This was proof that Daniel was exactly the snake I'd always thought he was. Instead, I felt sick. If Daniel had been spying for Apex, everyone who worked with him could be implicated, including me. I rushed back to my desk and started gathering my things. I needed to get out of there before I got dragged any deeper into this mess. Going somewhere, I looked up to see Daniel standing by my desk. He'd somehow escaped HR's clutches and looked surprisingly calm for someone who'd just been caught leaking confidential information. What the hell, Daniel? I hissed, keeping my voice low. You were spying for Apex? He laughed. Is that what they're saying now? Wow, rumors spread fast around here. I overheard Jennifer talking about emails from Apex in your account. Daniel rolled his eyes. I applied there before I got this internship. They reached out last week about an opening. That's it. So you're denying leaking the Green Life information? He leaned in close. What I'm saying is that you might want to check your sent emails before you start pointing fingers. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Maybe someone used your account to send some sensitive files. Maybe that someone also used your workstation when you were in the bathroom yesterday. Who knows? He straightened up and smiled. Good luck explaining that to HR. Before I could respond, 2 security guards appeared at the entrance to our area. Daniel nodded at them as if he'd been expecting them. That's my cue to leave. See you around, buddy. I watched in disbelief as Daniel casually walked toward the elevators, not the security guards. They weren't there for him. They were looking at me. Excuse me, sir. HR needs to see you again, one of them said when they reached my desk. I felt like I was going to throw up. Daniel had framed me. Somehow he'd made it look like I was the one who leaked the files. The second HR meeting was a lot less friendly than the first. Melissa was now joined by the head of HR and 2 people I recognized as executives. We have some concerns about new information that's come to light, Melissa began, her tone now cold and professional. Daniel framed me, I blurted out. Whatever you found, he set it up. The head of HR raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Of course I didn't. That was the problem with Daniel. He was always one step ahead. We found additional evidence that the leaked information was sent from your email account to a Gmail address registered in your name, Melissa continued. That's impossible, I said. I never sent anything to a personal email. The timestamps show it happened yesterday at 2:15 p.m. According to building security, your keycard was used to enter the bathroom at 2:12 p.m. and exit at 2:20 p.m. Daniel's words echoed in my head. Maybe someone used your account when you were in the bathroom yesterday. Daniel must have used my computer while I was gone, I explained desperately. He just told me himself he did it. The executives exchanged skeptical glances. I could see them mentally categorizing me as the guilty party trying to blame someone else. We've suspended Daniel pending further investigation, the head of HR said. But given the evidence, we're going to have to suspend you as well. I left the building in a daze, clutching a letter outlining my suspension and the investigation process. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. Security had already deactivated my keycard and escorted me to my car like a criminal. Sarah was waiting at my apartment when I got home. I told her everything, including Daniel's cryptic comments and the evidence supposedly linking me to the leak. This is ridiculous, she said after I finished. They can't possibly think you did this. The evidence says I did, I replied, collapsing onto my couch. My email, my workstation, even the timing matches when I was in the bathroom. Sarah paced the room, thinking, we need to prove Daniel did this. There has to be a way. I shook my head. He's too careful. That's why he's always gotten away with everything. Not everything, Sarah reminded me. He got expelled from college, remember? That sparked something in my memory. Daniel had been careful in college too, but he'd slipped up with the plagiarism because he was lazy. He'd copied directly from Wikipedia without even changing the formatting. Maybe he got sloppy again, I said, sitting up straight. When did you say the news about the leak broke? Sarah checked her phone. First tweets were around 11:45 a.m., right in the middle of your presentation. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up my email. If Daniel sent those files using my account, there should be a record in my sent items. Sure enough, there it was. An email sent to a Gmail address at 2:15 p.m. the previous day, with the Green Life files attached. The Gmail address was my first and last name, but I'd never created it. Look at the IP address in the email header, Sarah suggested. She worked in IT security, so she knew what to look for. I forwarded her the email, and she examined it on her phone. This was sent from within your company network, but she paused, squinting at the screen. The user agent string is different from your laptop. You use Chrome, right? I nodded. This was sent from Firefox. Does Daniel use Firefox? I've seen him using it, yeah. A glimmer of hope sparked in my chest. Is that enough to prove it wasn't me? Sarah grimaced. Not by itself, but it's a start. Over the next few days, Sarah helped me build my case. We discovered the Gmail account had been created just 2 days before the leak from an IP address that matched a coffee shop near Daniel's apartment. We also found login attempts to my company account from outside the network during times I was definitely at my desk. A week into my suspension, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Hello? It's Rick. Don't tell anyone I called you. My former mentor sounded tense. I put the phone on speaker so Sarah could hear. What's going on? I asked. Daniel started at Apex Digital yesterday, Rick said. Jennifer has a friend who works there who told her. Thought you should know. My jaw dropped. He's already working for the competition? While we're both still under investigation? That's not all, Rick continued. It found something weird on his workstation. Some kind of keylogger program that could have been used to capture your passwords. This was it. Proof that Daniel had set me up. Rick, I need you to tell HR about this. He hesitated. I already did, but there's a problem. The program was installed using administrative credentials, traced back to your account. My brief moment of hope crashed. That's impossible. I don't have admin access. Exactly. Which means either you had help from someone in IT, or Daniel is even better at covering his tracks than we thought. I finished. After Rick hung up, Sarah and I sat in stunned silence. Daniel wasn't just framing me for the leak. He'd constructed an elaborate setup that made it look like I was a sophisticated corporate spy. We need to go nuclear, Sarah finally said. What do you mean? If Daniel is working at Apex now, that means he's still using the information he stole. That's ongoing corporate espionage, not just a one-time leak. She was right. If Daniel had taken the Green Life information to Apex, there would be evidence of it in their systems, their product development, their marketing plans. But how do we prove that? I asked. Sarah smiled. I have an idea. The next day, she accidentally ran into Karen from Green Life at a coffee shop near their office. Sarah had done her research. She knew Karen stopped there every morning. After striking up a conversation and explaining who she was, Sarah laid out our theory about Daniel working for Apex. Karen was skeptical at first, but became more interested when Sarah mentioned specific details about the leaked files that hadn't been made public. All I'm asking is that you check if Apex's new marketing plans incorporate any of the confidential strategies from those files, Sarah told her. If they do, you'll know who really leaked them. 2 weeks later, I received an email from Melissa asking me to come in for another meeting. My stomach was in knots as I drove to the office, not knowing if I was about to be fired or cleared. When I arrived, the conference room was packed. Melissa was there, along with the legal team, Rick, and several executives. To my surprise, Karen from Green Life was also present. Thank you for coming in, Melissa began. We've completed our investigation into the information leak. I held my breath. Based on new evidence provided by Green Life Organics, we've determined that you were not responsible for the leak. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. Karen nodded at me from across the table. We found our confidential marketing strategy being implemented at Apex Digital, she explained. When confronted, they claimed it came from their new hire, Daniel Martinez. Apex fired him immediately and turned over all his communications to avoid being sued, one of the executives added. The evidence clearly shows he orchestrated the leak and framed you. What happens now? I asked. We're lifting your suspension, effective immediately, Melissa said, and offering you a full-time position upon completion of your internship, if you're interested. I couldn't believe it. After all the stress and uncertainty, I was not only cleared but being offered a job. Additionally, the executive continued, Green Life was impressed with the marketing strategy you presented before the interruption. They'd like you to finish that presentation for them next week. Karen smiled. We're also looking for someone to head our new youth marketing initiative. The position is yours if you want it. I left that meeting feeling like I was floating. 3 job offers in one day, after weeks of thinking my career was over before it began. As I was walking to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congrats on clearing your name. Didn't think you had it in you. No hard feelings, right? Maybe we'll work together again someday. D. I deleted it without responding and called Sarah to share the good news. 6 months later, I was settling into my new role at Green Life. I'd chosen their offer over the others because the company culture was exactly what I wanted. Collaborative, ethical, and no tolerance for the kind of behavior Daniel had exhibited. Sarah and I moved in together, adopting a cat we named Jenkins as a weird tribute to the professor who had finally done the right thing back in community college. I occasionally heard rumors about Daniel through industry contacts. He bounced from job to job, never staying anywhere more than a few months. His reputation for corporate espionage followed him, making it increasingly difficult for him to find work in marketing. The last I heard, he was trying to start his own marketing consultancy, which was failing spectacularly, as no reputable company would touch him. As for me, I finally felt like I'd escaped the shadow of deadbeat Daniel. My work was being recognized, I was respected by my colleagues, and I'd learned valuable lessons about standing up for myself and not letting manipulative people control the narrative. Sometimes I think about how different things might have been if Daniel had actually changed after college, if he'd used his natural charm and intelligence for good instead of deception. But then I remember what Sarah told me during the investigation. Some people never change because they never see a reason to. They just get better at hiding who they really are, and Daniel had proven her right. He hadn't changed from college, he'd just gotten more sophisticated in his schemes, until his own arrogance finally caught up with him. I realized I was lucky, not just because I'd been cleared or because I'd landed a great job, but because I'd escaped becoming like Daniel. In all our encounters, I'd maintained maintained my integrity, even when it would have been easier to fight dirty. In the end, that integrity was what saved me, and it was something Daniel would never understand.